Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Morning Grind here over on RotoGrinders. Again, it is me. It is not Stevie. He is still on vacation. He'll be back next week. But you're stuck with me one more week. Joined here by my buddy Blender. How you doing over there?
Good. You're stuck with me. Tip. I mean, you're normally on these shows, these preview shows, so they're always stuck with you, but they're never stuck with you as a host. And it's glad to see that you're keeping fresh for all the people as a host today.
Well, that's good. Thank you for the compliment there. Really appreciate it. We got a fun little week. It's a decent sized slate. I mean, we've got 7 games on the early slate and then 4 on the afternoon. Still not as great as the 6-game afternoon slate last week, but four. You really can't complain with 4 afternoon games, right?
Well, with the way that most of the year has been, with there being no sports, I can't complain that there's anything on.
That's definitely a good point. Yeah, no, I'm still happy. Nothing's been canceled yet, so just gonna keep enjoying life, actually having a job, and being able to watch sports. Life is good, but let's get started here with a fun game. Already, we don't know who's going to start Hill or Winston. We're assuming right now it's going to be Winston, right? Like that's kind of the assumption in New Orleans.
Right. I mean, I can't see Taysom Hill starting as a full-time, taking 30 dropbacks type of quarterback. I mean, I could see them mixing Taysom Hill in because Sean Payton has a love affair with him, and obviously they paid him a ton of money. But this game is, the Saints 27.75 implied total currently. The Falcons 22.75. It's one of the highest totals on the slate. It's in a dome, and if Winston's going to be 5,900, the only thing that I could say about him is that we can't just assume that, like, it's not the Buccaneers. Right, it's not their offense; it's the Saints' offense. So we may have to temper expectations that he's just going to be chucking the ball down the field. But with the Falcons secondary, that could be a useful thing to do anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean honestly, going up against the Falcons, I don't really want to play Winston, but sitting at 5.9K, like he doesn't have Godwin and Evans and Arians setting up at things, but it worries me a little bit that Taysom might come in there, kind of steal some of the goal line work. Kind of steal this and that. So Winston at 5.9K, I'm fine with. I'm not a huge fan of. What about Kamara? Like, is it going to be a run-heavy game here? Is he going to be getting a lot of dump-offs? Thomas, 7.3K, sitting there just screaming at me to play him after he ruined my week last week, but don't really know how well he's going to work with Winston. It obviously didn't go great last weekend, but he still ended up with 7 targets. We could see Sean Payton kind of script some stuff at Thomas, like, are you using any of these New Orleans pieces?
Well, I think they're going to be a staple in my player pool, but I think I think Kamara is actually more interesting because him and Cook are the 2 running backs that are 9K or above, and I'm going to assume that Cook's going to be more popular against the Cowboys than Kamara.
Yeah,
especially with like people are going to go and try to play Chucky football Winston. They're probably going to pair him with Michael Thomas because who else are you going to do it with? What, Sanders? I mean, he can. Traquan Smith? Who knows? But, like, most people are going to go Winston, Thomas, and then play, like, Ridley or Jones on the other side, and then play Dalvin Cook. But, Kamara gets balls out of the backfield. And although, like, on the Buccaneers, like, they didn't have a running back that caught passes like Kamara does. So, it's a Sean Payton offense. So if we see Michael Thomas coming in at high ownership and Winston coming in at high ownership and Cook coming in at high ownership, I mean, I think Kamara makes if you're going to play a 9K running back, I mean, I think it makes a great leverage play. But I mean, it's possible that he's owned also. We don't have initial ownership currently on a Wednesday, but I'm more likely to side in GPPs because this is a high total game, and I want to attack the Falcons defense. That I'm going to side with wherever the ownership isn't, more so than where it is.
Yeah, no, I can almost guarantee at this moment right now that more people are going to be on Cook than are on Kamara by a pretty drastic amount. I'm not going to be surprised if Winston ends up being one of the chalkier quarterbacks. We don't have Murray. We don't have Mahomes. We don't have Wilson. We don't have a lot of guys on the slate that we generally like to play, pretty much of the top scoring quarterbacks in the league. Like it's I think Herbert is probably the top option so far this week that's actually playing on the main slate here. So, yeah, we could see Winston getting a decent amount of ownership. What about over on the other side? Like, we got Matt Ryan, 6.3K. Not an easy matchup, but, I mean, it's Matt Ryan. He can put up a big game at any time. It looks like Ridley's probably going to end up being back this week. Are you using any of these Atlanta players, or are you just doing correlation plays mostly?
I think this is a prime target for a correlation play. If Ridley's back, a lot of people don't like taking players off of injuries, but at 7K, I mean, compared to Julio Jones at 7,500, like, I think I could take a shot on Ridley. I'm not sure about stacking this game. Like, I'm not playing Ridley and Jones together at 7K on a slate, because it's very hard for them both to hit ceilings at the same time at those prices. But to mix in, especially on a garbage tight end slate, Hayden Hurst or something, and you could play Ryan, Ridley, Hurst. You could do something like that with Kamara as the run back. I mean, these are all expensive stacks, so you need this game to go over the 50 total. But I'd almost rather Ridley play, because that'll probably lower the ownership on the Falcons side. Because if Ridley doesn't play, then Julio Jones at 7,500 starts becoming, a popular option. But now, if with them both in, I think both of them, more people will play Thomas, more people will play maybe the Vikings wide receivers. There are other options on the slate to take, or they're going to go double expensive running back and start, taking a lot of, like, there's a good amount of 5K wide receivers that are definitely playable on this slate. So I think that the Saints will be popular, but I'm not sure about the popularity of the Falcons. And the less and less the Falcons become popular, the more likely I want to stack instead of playing one-offs.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's a bad move. Game script could definitely be good. The over could absolutely end up hitting here, and I'm right there with you on Ridley. I mean, Ridley, before he got injured, I mean, we look at his game log outside of that one game in Green Bay, 33 points, 29 points, 16 points, 21, 19, 20. Like, he's been good all season long. He's been better than Julio for the most part. Julio's just been getting a little bit more workload since he got injured. So, yeah, I'm right there with you with Ridley. I don't mind the Hurst call. I'm probably staying away from everyone else here. I don't really have any interest in Todd Gurley in this spot here. So there's other running backs around the same range that I'd rather go with. But let's move on to the next game here. We got Detroit going up against Carolina. Decent amount of injury news here. It looks like Galladay was practicing today, which I think is good news. I'll double check on it. But Bridgewater limited in practice, or might not have practiced. We don't have full news on that. Don't know if he's going to end up playing here. Stafford looks like he's going to be out, but he might end up playing. Like, it's a right thumb injury. If he is, then I don't know if he's going to be fully capable. I don't know. There's a lot of question marks here. Like, what are your thoughts over on Carolina if PJ Walker ends up playing, or if he doesn't end up playing?
Well, I mean, I think that the efficiencies of these offenses are going to very heavily rely on the quarterback availability as well as Galladay's availability. So if PJ Walker's in for Bridgewater, like, I mean, he's cheap. He's 4,800. You could pair him up with an Anderson. I'm more likely to pair him up with Anderson. Anderson's running these lower A-dot routes. And I know PJ Walker could sling the ball from his time in the XFL, but I'm not sure if they're just going to allow him to do so. Detroit could end up being a bit run heavy, but since last week, they've been, kind of featuring DeAndre Swift. So at 6,400, I mean, I think he's going to be a fairly popular play, catches balls out of the backfield, a reasonable enough price. But like Galladay at 5,800, like, even if Chase Daniel is in, like, who else is he going to rely on, having a big receiver running those crossing routes in order to move the ball if this game goes sideways? Like, I like Chase Daniel at a cheap price if you're building a lineup where the Lions are behind, where you're playing Daniel, Galladay, and then you're pairing that up with a Mike Davis or a Robbie Anderson or something like that. But if we see PJ Walker and Chase Daniel both playing in this game, like, there's a reason why this total is only 45.5, because it could still end up underwhelming. But the prices are cheap. So, I'm going to see what the ownership looks like towards the end of the week and make my decision from there. But because it's one of the lower totals, we don't have high totals on this slate. I mean, everything's within like 45 to 50, 45 to 51, pretty much. So, like, no game is, like, completely out of the question. Don't want to touch it. But if I had my choice, I think it's more likely that if these backup quarterbacks are playing that while it being cheap, we may see some very inefficient offenses.
Yeah, no, it's definitely gonna be interesting. Something you gotta catch it, keep your eye on. I like the Galladay call, like right there with you. If he's in the game, I don't really care who's throwing the ball to him. I will take some shots on him just because he's so big and so talented. Outside of that, Robbie Anderson, like if Walker ends up playing, I wouldn't be surprised if Anderson had a big game there. But Mike Davis is the interesting one. I mean, Swift, by the way, yeah, I like Swift. Like it looks like he's going to get a decent amount of work here, like continuing to get more and more work as weeks go on. And he's been fantastic. And he's been pretty good in the receiving game too. But Mike Davis, like this is a guy that we were playing at 7K earlier on this season. Like, and we had very little problem with it. He did not do well last week when he was the absolute shock, but he was going up against Tampa Bay. The game turned into a bit of a blowout, but this is a much better matchup here going up against Detroit, especially if Walker's in there. We could see a lot more of them relying on him, but Samuel's obviously stealing some of the carries. Like, if Mike Davis is going to be low-owned, are you using him with all this recency bias? I very well think he could end up low-owned.
I don't think he's going to – I really don't think he's going to be low-owned. I think people will look at the Detroit run defense and go, why not play him? There's not many top wide receivers to pay up for. We don't have the Chiefs on the slate. We don't have the Seahawks. We don't have the Cardinals. You're not paying up for quarterback pretty much. I think people are going to try to jam in expensive running backs and like one expensive running back and like a cheaper running back. I think more people will play Swift than Davis, but I still think Davis is going to be owned. You're going to be able to spend the money on him, and you're not going to feel comfortable spending money on like a 5,000 range running back, which is where I'm looking at more often than not. I think Mike Davis obviously has a shot to get there, but he's not 4K anymore. So, I could see him being 20% owned. I mean, it's not going to be super owned, but like it's going to dictate if he's single digit owned. Yes, I'm interested. If he's 20% owned, like I'm more likely to just hope that because of two backup quarterbacks that these offenses are just inefficient.
Yeah, I don't mind that call. Yeah, I don't know. It's too early in the week. Like we don't really know. This is one of the few games where you really just don't. Any number of things could end up happening because of injury news. So, yeah, I don't know. Well, if Davis is going to be low on, I'm going to have a lot of them. But if you're right and he's going to draw some ownership, it's just an all right play to me. Next game here, we got Philly going up against Cleveland, 47 total. Cleveland is a 3-point favorite here, and Chubb, Hunt, both back in the mix. They both have to make value this last weekend, although a lot of that was because of the wind and them getting heavy workloads here. It's going to be a close game. We got Philly has a lot of their weapons back. Ertz is practicing today, so we could have Goddard and Ertz there in the game. Jeffrey came back this last week. We still got Rager healthy, Fulgham healthy. Like, we got a lot of stuff over on Philly, but let's start with Cleveland here. Obviously hasn't done a ton in the last few weeks, but they've been in some pretty bad weather games the last 2 weeks. We don't have a huge sample size of what this offense is going to be like without OBJ in it because they really haven't had to pass a lot. Baker's coming in at 5.4K. They are the favorites. Yes, they're a run-heavy team, but Landry, 5.5K. Higgins, 4.5K. Again, we don't have a sample size of them playing without OBJ too much this year because it's really just been huge wind games. So what's your thought on this Cleveland passing attack?
Well, I mean, I think their main propensity, regardless of the weather, is they want to run the ball a lot more. So I see trouble in this game if the Browns are leading for most of it because they're just going to suck the time right off the clock. And with Chubb and Hunt both being priced up, 7,000, 6,700, and having a near equal workload, it's kind of hard to make a case for playing one of them. I mean, if you think it's going to tilt in one direction, sure, but you can play them. But I'm more likely to build lineups that have the outcome where the Eagles are ahead. If I'm going to take like a Landry or a Higgins, if I'm going to stack Mayfield, like those lineups, I'd want to have like a Miles Sanders in. Versus, playing Hunt or Chubb. But the problem with the Eagles is that now that like pretty much everyone's healthy, Like these targets could go to 8 different guys. I mean, you got Goddard, you got Rodgers at the tight end, you got Greg Ward there, you got Jeffrey. He should probably see an uptick in snaps. You got Sanders out of the backfield. They always rotate Boston Scott in sometimes. Jalen Reagor, Travis Fulgham. I mean, like no one's inefficiently priced. And maybe Goddard because the tight end sucks this week. Sure, I guess you could play Goddard. I just see so many paths for this game to have less plays in it than more plays that now obviously if they're low owned, I'll take a shot on it. But I mean, I don't expect this game to be high owned at all. I expect Landry to get maybe 8% ownership. Goddard may get 10 or 12% ownership. Sanders may come in at 10% or so. Hooper at a tight end position, sure, maybe some, but I don't see the stacks of this game being popular. And if I'm going to build some, because there's still a chance that this could shoot out, I'm more likely to take it from the Philly side than from the Cleveland side.
Yeah, I don't mind a little correlation with Philly taking Higgins or Landry if they do have to throw the ball, and Philly gets up to a decent lead. So, yeah, let's talk about the Philly side here. I'm kind of right there with you. Don't really want to use any of their wide receivers. If I'm going to use anyone, it's probably going to be Goddard. 3.8K, he got a decent price decrease down from 4.2K. Going up against Cleveland, they've been pretty bad at allowing points to the tight end so far this season. Worried about his potential workload, but Wentz is sitting there at 5.7K in a decent total game with guys to actually throw to. Like, I like Sanders, and I don't mind Wentz. It's just I don't know who I would pair Wentz with. So are you going to use any real Philly stacks here with Wentz, any double stacks or anything like that?
No, I mean, you'd have to spend so many lineups just to get the right combo. And it's quite possible none of the combos work, right? The ball gets spread around enough that, like, no one gets there. We may have Ertz back this week also. So, like, that even throws more of a wrench into what the hell they're going to do. I don't mind Wentz as just a standalone play, like if you're going to play cash. But even then, I still think there are better quarterbacks to play on this slate. The Philly has a 22 implied total, so that's not even all that high. So it's more of the ambiguity of the offense than, like, I'm down on the Eagles. You knock some of these players out, okay, then I'm a little bit more inclined to roster them. But it's hard to stack a quarterback when they have like 7 options to throw to.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of right there with you. I'm trying to figure out something, but I think the right play is Sanders and bring it back with like a Landry, hoping the Cleveland has to throw the ball later in the game. Yeah, these not great games so far. We got some good ones coming up. Patriots versus Houston here. We got a 48.5 total. Looking at the Blitz early projections, it's liking a lot from this game. And while on a normal week, I probably wouldn't go there, this is definitely an interesting spot. I mean, the Patriots defense has really not been great so far this season. Currently sitting at 31 DVOA versus the rush, 30 versus the pass. Yes, they did keep Lamar Jackson from doing too much, but also that was a terrible weather game. And it's just like Belichick can scheme like that. Looks like there's a decent chance that David Johnson doesn't end up playing this week. So we have a possibility of Duke Johnson sitting there at 5.4K after putting up a bit of a dud last week. But that was also a big win game, and he got 14 rushing attempts. So the price tag is still a little bit cheap. Let's start off with the Houston side. Are you going to plan on targeting more of the pass game, targeting more of the run game? What are you doing here?
I'm targeting all of every game. I'm all of this game I'm targeting. The Patriots typically have what's called like a bend but not break type of defense. So they're more likely to give up a ton of fantasy points, but be a bit stingier in the red zone. So like it makes their projection so much higher. And on the Patriots side, there's only so few options that you really find appealing to run it back with that I have no problem running. You fill a tight end position with like an Akins or a Fells, and then you run Brandon Cooks revenge game, right? 5,200, right? He played for the Patriots. I mean, he
played for a lot of teams.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I have to throw. Hey, it's the morning grind. I got to throw in narratives here for the people.
Oh, said the guy that got real angry at my Devontae Booker narrative last week.
Well, no, I'm not saying that you should go by narratives. I'm just like, if you're not going to mention it, I'm going to mention it. It's required by my, I believe, my contract that on these shows you got to mention narratives and revenge stuff. So, I don't mind Watson Cooks, Watson Fuller, Watson. And then on the other side, Newton, the other way is fine too. I think the Texans defense is awful. So you could go Newton, Myers, and Cooks. You could run Duke Johnson. You could run Rex Burkhead if you want. I mean, I think there's only a few options. Like I wouldn't go to like N'Keal Harry or Damiere Byrd, and I'm probably not playing maybe not a Randall Cobb. Although at 3,600, that's not like the worst thing if you're double stacking or something. I just think the pieces of this game are cheap in comparison to the total. The total's 48.5. On slates that we've seen in the past where we have 6 games that are 50 plus, a 48.5 total doesn't like stand out or anything. A 48.5 total is, we're talking about one of the highest totals on the slate. I mean, like we're like currently it's up to 49 now, which makes it the 3rd highest total on the slate. So at these prices, there's no 7K guys on these teams. So like, why can't I do a 3+1 of this game, and then I could still fit in a Kamara or Cook into my
Yeah, no, I'm kind of right there with you. I think Cooks is a great play. I think that they could potentially shut down Fuller, especially with his deep field passing. Like, I like Cooks a lot. I still like Fuller. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm probably going to use a decent amount of Duke Johnson. If Dave Johnson does end up missing, Watson is obviously one of the better plays on the slate. I think going up against one of the worst pass defenses in the league, that they could potentially be up, or the Patriots could be up later on the game. We know what Watson does in trash time. So yeah, right there with you. Over on the Patriots side, what are your thoughts on Jacoby Myers? Are you touching any of the running backs? Are you playing Cam Newton? And if you are you just playing him naked?
No, I never played naked quarterbacks because, I mean, it's not like he has expensive receivers. So you play Jacoby Myers and you're done. I mean, you see that he's obviously the target leader now that Edelman's out, and the way that they're running their offense. Newton obviously has, touchdown equity with his feet. So, like, he takes away from the running back touchdown equity. So, like, if I were to play a New England running back, it would be a standalone piece. Like, I wouldn't even play it with a run back or anything. You want to play Burkhead, you want to play Harris, you play them just standalone running back and move on. But if you're stacking this game, it's like, no, it's Newton, Myers to play Cooks, Fuller on the other side, play a nice 2+1, and you're done. Like, I just don't know of any other combos that you reasonably make.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. Who has more touchdowns since week 4? Jacoby Myers, passing touchdowns. Jacoby Myers or Cam Newton?
Cam Newton.
Nope, it's the same. They both have 1.
They both have 1. Okay.
Yeah. Gosh, this offense is just super weird. But Belichick is going to do what Belichick does. But yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. Myers, the only one that I'm really looking at. I could see using Burkhead, but I don't think so. Like, with Harris and White in there, like I just like I never want to trust a Patriots running back. He has been getting a decent amount of work in the last few weeks, but not something that I really want to go with. But yeah, like this is pretty easy game to stack up. You bring it back, you play Myers, and that's pretty much it outside of Cam Newton over on the Patriots side, and then you can go any number of different ways on the Houston side there. All right, next game up is Tennessee up against Baltimore, 49 total. Baltimore is a 6-point favorite here. Let's start off with the Baltimore side. Lamar Jackson has been great this season. Didn't have a great game last week, but he's still always got that upside. Going up against Tennessee, Clowney is currently questionable, I think, to play this week. Let's start off with the Baltimore side. Any interest in paying up at quarterback this week, since we don't have the normal ones we like to pay up for?
Well, if you go by historical data, Lamar has the highest upside there is, but like based on what you've seen this season, like does he really?
Does he have the highest upside? You're talking about on the slate, maybe. I think Kyler Murray has shown.
Right, right. I'm talking about on the slate, right?
Okay,
we have quarterback. I mean, he's the highest priced quarterback on this slate currently. But like, I could only see pairing him up with Mark Andrews at a garbage tight end position. Like Mark Andrews at 4,900 is the highest priced tight end, and he has the highest touchdown equity on the slate. I mean, if there's a tight end that's going to get 2 touchdowns this week, it's probably going to be Mark Andrews. The problem is that like the rest of this Ravens team, like who do you play? I mean, like Marquise Brown is a ghost. They throw the ball to Devernay, to Snead, to Boykin. They have 3 running backs. Lamar's rushing the ball. Like this may be the lowest owned game that has one of the higher totals. It has a 49 total, and I'd be shocked. Maybe Andrews gets double-digit ownership. But I'd be shocked if anyone else in this game is higher than single digit.
I mean, Willie Snead always trolls us once a year with 2 touchdowns. Don't know why it happens. Happened last week, so now I know don't have to play him at all the rest of the season because he got his 2 touchdown game here. But I mean, you can do Lamar and you can do Andrews together. Like, honestly, if
Of
Lamar,
course you could. You could do anything together. Of course, if I was to do that, that's what I would do. But I think if people are like, I'm going to try to double stack Lamar, it's like, who the hell would the second guy be?
yeah, no, I mean, it'd be Hollywood Brown, but still, like, Hollywood just hasn't been there pretty much all season long. I mean, looking at his game log, he has 2 double-digit fantasy outputs so far this season. And yes, he can always go off for a big play at any given time. Yes, he has that 2 touchdown upside with Lamar, but it's just not likely to happen. It doesn't seem like that's the way it's been going so far this year. So, yeah, throwing Andrews in there. Andrews could have a 2 touchdown game. Andrews could have a 3 touchdown game. He has a huge amount of touchdown equity, and yes, he hasn't had one for a few weeks, but since the beginning of last year, I think in terms of tight ends, he's still tied for the lead in total touchdowns. So, if you're playing Jackson, you're not really banking on him throwing multiple, like, over 2 touchdown passes. And if they don't go to Andrews, good luck trying to figure it out. So, yeah, playing him with just Andrews, I know Andrews isn't that expensive and he might not get a ton of points, but still 2 touchdown upside, and Lamar Jackson has a chance at rushing for 100 yards in any given matchup. So, yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. What about over on the Tennessee side? Any interest in Derrick Henry going up against Baltimore? That's been really good against the running back, but he is Derrick Henry. This is coming close into December, and I don't know. I'm guessing he's going to be pretty darn low owned because people would rather go to Kamara, would rather go to Cook.
Right, especially with the Ravens defense being, a great defense. I don't see any of these Titans really being owned. I mean, do you want to pay $7,200 for AJ Brown? I mean, like, I don't mind at low ownership. So, like, I could have AJ Brown. I think I'm more likely to play Corey Davis at $4,800. You get a discount, and he has maybe not as much upside as AJ Brown, but I mean, this game as a whole will not be very owned. So if you said I want to take a shot on Derrick Henry at 4% ownership against the Ravens, I can't call you nuts. If you want to take a shot at 2% own AJ Brown against the Ravens, I can't call you nuts. Corey Davis at 4% own. I mean, do I stack Tannehill in this game? Probably not. Right? Why would I do that side of the game? Why would I play Tannehill, Davis, Jonnu Smith, and Mark Andrews or something? Like, if I'm going to play Mark Andrews as my run back, I'm going to have Lamar as my quarterback. So if you are stacking Lamar and Andrews, yeah, okay, play one of the Titans guys. But like, it's a lower probability spot, and you're doing it for ownership. You're not doing it because they're necessarily the greatest of plays.
Yeah, kind of right there with you. I don't want to pay that price for AJ Brown. I'm just not a guy that likes to play Corey Davis, and I don't play running backs against Baltimore. It hardly ever ends up working out great. 3rd and rush, DVOA, and they rarely ever give up a 100-yard rusher. Yes, it's Derrick Henry. Yes, he can end up with 2 touchdowns. Yes, I think he ended up with 2 touchdowns against them in the playoffs last season, but it's not a spot that I really want to rely on. So kind of right there with you. Let's move on to the next game here, which could be fun, could not be fun, could be terrible. I don't know. Jacksonville going up against Pittsburgh. We have a 46.5-point total. Pittsburgh is a 10-point favorite. Let's start off with Jacksonville. Anything. Do you want anything in this spot?
Well, I think the same way with Derrick Henry. Like, you could take a shot on James Robinson at 6,400 against the Steelers defense. I mean, the Jaguars have, I believe, the lowest implied total on the slate. Right, even the Jets have a higher implied total. So, yeah, and obviously
Jets are going to lose by 3 this week or win by 3 this week. That's just going to happen.
Right, but I mean, even the Jacksonville side, like, you have, if Chenault's back, you have so many of these options. Like, who the hell would you play? Cole, Conley, Chark. You got old. Who would you play? I have no idea, and it's the lowest total team. So like if anything, I'm playing the Pittsburgh side, but I think people get this notion that the Jaguars' defense is bad, and they are bad. But they're not as bad as you think that they are. I mean, they did fine against the Packers. So
in a win game.
Right. Well, Marcus Valdes-Scantling still had a 60-yard pass. So don't get it's the win game. Like, well, they still gave up that pass.
They had one pass. That happened one time.
That's all you need. That's all you need in football, Grant. Right?
Yeah, I know, but it can happen.
Coverage and you're gone.
Are we going to play Keelan Cole because he got a 90-yard punt return?
No, of course not. Well, doesn't mean I'm playing any of these other guys either. But on the Pittsburgh side, you have 3 wide receivers. You have Connor, who apparently they're just not going to run the ball or whatever. They're going to rotate a whole bunch of people around. He probably has touchdown equity, sure, at a 28.25 implied team total. But then you got Juju at 6,400, Deontay at 5,900, Claypool at 6,100. Any of them could go off, but also they could all have even types of stat lines. So, like, do I want to play Roethlisberger on the slate? I mean, after obviously the past game, some recency biases in there going, Jacksonville defense, Roethlisberger may throw 40 times. Let me double stack this game. But yes, you could make a case to playing any of them individually, but to pick which one it's going to be, I wouldn't know. I think these guys may be a little over-owned, but I mean, I'm not going to know until ownership and Jamino's hamster wheel comes out. I would think Deontay Johnson's going to be popular enough. He'll be double-digit owned. Juju's people still have something wrong against him because he gets such low A-dot targets. I think Claypool, I mean, he gets over-owned like every week. So even at 6,100, I think he's going to be owned. So to me, I view this as a game that's going to be a little over-owned. I think people will overvalue the Jacksonville defense with the Steelers against it. But, I'm never shocked with Ben throwing that they put up 40 points in this game. So, like it could be that. It could also be a 17-3 game.
Yeah, I mean, it very well could be, but we could have the same thing going up against Dallas. Roethlisberger ended up throwing the ball 40 times, didn't have a great fantasy output, if I remember correctly, but wasn't terrible, put up 25 points. So, yeah, it's not bad. I don't know. Like, at any time that you have an undefeated team going up against a bad team when they're playing on the road, like, I'm kind of never really surprised when they end up going off. Like, Chark would be the one guy that I would end up going with. We only have a 2-week sample size with Luton playing. Chark, one of the weeks, had 12 targets, and I could see that happening again. Yes, Pittsburgh has a fantastic defense, and yes, they have a very low total. I'm not playing Luton. That's not happening. I don't see any point in playing him, even at 5K, but I probably will play some Chark just as a bring back because I'm probably I've done this pretty much every week in the season, except for last week, strangely enough. It was the first time that I didn't stack up Roethlisberger with 2 wide receivers multiple times. But Pittsburgh always has a chance to go off, so I'm going to be using interchangeably Juju, Claypool, and Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson being my favorite of the bunch with Big Ben and bringing it back with Chark, just because I don't know. We still have unknown of who he's really going to target too much because, again, it was a bit of a wind game last week, so Luton could still end up throwing to Chark 10 times, 12 times, 15 times in this game. But that might just me. Could go terribly wrong. We'll see. We got the next game up here. It is Cincinnati going up against Washington. Low total here, 46.5 points. Let's start off with the Washington side. Alex Smith, I'm going to throw for 90 yards with a horrible leg and almost win the game. This is not a terrible matchup. I don't know if they're going to end up throwing that much again. Washington has a good defense. Like, anything over on the Washington side that you really want to use here?
Terry McLaurin. He constantly goes under-owned, and he's an alpha wide receiver. He gets the highest A-dot targets. I don't care that Alex Smith is throwing the ball. He did well with Haskins. He did well with everyone. So what does it matter? Kyle Allen, it doesn't matter. So at 6,900 on a slate where there's not much to pay up for, I could definitely use McLaurin. Do I stack him with Alex Smith? Maybe not. I think I'm more inclined to go the other way with this game and play Joe Burrow because the Bengals have no problem chucking the ball. So, like, I'm looking at this going, can I play a Burrow with Boyd, with Higgins, run it back with McLaurin? You could run it back with Gibson or even J.D. McKissick. J.D. McKissick is one, like, he had back-to-back games of 14-plus targets.
Yep.
For who he is. They a lot of times that the Washington team, they put Gibson and McKissick out at the same time.
Because they don't have other good receiving options anyways.
Right. They line McKissick up as a slot. He goes out in the slot sometimes. So even at 5,200 with J.D. McKissick, like the way that the Washington team is playing football, like is it recency bias because of the last two games? Who knows? If you think Washington is going to play with a lead, then you play Gibson. But if you think this is going to be a close enough game where Smith has to throw the ball, like McKissick at 5,200, he becomes like, we used to play Chris Thompson when he gets 8 targets out of the backfield as a third down back. I think from a floor perspective, I think McKissick is fine. I question the ceiling. The ceiling will depend on the game script, but I don't think he's a bad option.
Yeah, no, kind of right there with you. I think playing Burrow, pairing him up with Boyd and or Higgins is not a bad move, and then bring it back with McLaurin, who is just perpetually a great play, and McKissick, because if the game script goes more towards them having to throw and come from behind, then it's a perfect spot for them. So McKissick could end up with a ton of targets just like last week if they're chucking the ball a lot. So I'm right there with you. Anything else from this game? Not probably going.
Well, we'll have to see whether or not Mixon is going to be back. If Mixon
looks like
is back,
he didn't practice today, I think.
Okay, well, it's Wednesday, so sometimes the people don't practice on Wednesday.
I was just giving you
right.
information.
If he doesn't play, it doesn't make Giovanni Bernard like a great play or anything, but he's viable at 5,500. I'm more inclined, if Mixon is back, to play him at 6,300, because if he's fully healthy, like, they have no problem giving him 25 touches. So, it could be a 50-50 split with Bernard. We have to see the news out of the practice reports. But if I see him as a full participant on Friday and on Saturday, like, people don't like playing guys off of injury. So at 6,300, I have no problem taking a shot on him.
Yeah. Don't mind that call at all. Washington's a little bit more susceptible to the run than they are to the pass. So, and Mixon can just go off at any given time. So I like that call. Let's move on to the next game here. We got Denver going up against Miami, one of the lowest totals on the slate. But again, you're right. They're all pretty much right next to each other. 44 or 45 right now. Let's start off with Denver here. Decent chance that Locke doesn't end up starting this week. It's still early on in the week, so we don't actually know. It could be Driscoll. It could be, what's his name? Rippin?
Rippin.
Yeah, it could be any number of guys. Who knows what's going to end up happening here, but let's just kind of go under the assumption that Locke ends up playing, because I don't know if it's a drastic difference between any of them. Any pieces over on Denver that you have interest in?
You could always take a shot on Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant. Does this game seem appealing to stack up from the Denver side? Probably not. I'm more interested in the Dolphins than the Broncos. We want to see what's going to happen with Matt Breida. Howard they got rid of, so you don't even have to worry about him being active or inactive. But Salvon Ahmed came in and did pretty well. It seems like they don't want Tua to throw the ball 40 times a game, so they're more likely to use these little slot guys. Jakeem Grant. Use Ahmed or some running back more. Maybe it's DeAndre Washington. Who knows? But at 4,800, if you tell me Breida's out. And Miami is favored in this game. They're favored by 3.5 points. They have a 24.25 implied total at 4,800. For a cheap running back, can he get you 15 points? I think he can.
Yeah, right there with you. 4.8K when he's going to see, if he's going to see the same workload he did last week against a Denver team that gave up 200 yards rushing almost. Like, if he's going to get 21 carries, because they've given that to Gaskin, they have a propensity to do that, especially with Miami being favored and Denver just not looking great overall. I'm kind of right there with you. I don't mind using Parker. I don't mind using Grant. Parker, still offers a pretty big ceiling. We haven't seen it much this season, but last season, obviously, we saw it a decent amount without Preston Williams in there. I don't mind using any of the Dolphins players here. I think they're all decent plays. Even Gesicki on a bad tight end slate. Not the worst idea in the world at 4.3K. Yes, Tua hasn't thrown to him a ton, but he still has a decent amount of upside. He's a great receiving tight end. So, yeah, I don't really mind any of these Miami guys. Right there with you. Let's move on to the next game here, which, guys, go hammer the Jets +7. It's just how things work. They're going to get out to a 14-point lead early, and then the Chargers are going to probably come back and either lose by 3 or win by 3. So Jets +7, great play. One of my favorite plays of the week, just saying. But let's start off here with the Chargers going up against this Jets defense. Herbert has a new haircut, in case you care about that at all.
The haircut narrative, according to the RG Discord, only applies to NBA. So NBA, it matters. But NFL, I'm not sure. The jury's out on that.
All right. Well, we do have Herbert going up against the worst pass D in the league. We got Keenan Allen sitting there at 7.4K after a bit of a letdown week where he still ended up with 12.9 points because of that touchdown. We got Mike Williams sitting there. We got Hunter Henry. We got Balaj, who's now
revenge game. Where's the alert bell? Do we have sound effects here? Are we required to do right? Kalen Balaj was on the Dolphins with Adam Gase, right?
I mean, they're playing the Jets,
right? But it's still Adam Gase, right?
Oh, Adam Gase, yeah,
right. It's an Adam Gase revenge game.
I mean, I don't know if it's revenge because Adam Gase just kept running Balaj even though he was terrible. Although the reason why he was terrible was probably because of Adam Gase. And he tried to – I don't think he holds anything against him. I think the Jets tried to pick up or trade for Balaj before he got cut, if I remember correctly. I don't know. It's just a Gase.
Yeah, but all I'm looking at in this game with the Chargers is that they have a 27.75 implied total, one of the highest on the slate. They're over a touchdown favorite, and Kalen Balaj apparently is their lead back, getting like 70+% of the work. They don't want to give anything to Kelly. They barely let Pope, right? He's barely touching the ball. So at 5,600, it sounds disgusting. But what's so wrong with Kalen Balaj? If you took out the name and the teams, and you just told me there's a $5,600 running back getting 70% of snaps with a 27.75 implied total. Like, he probably has more than a 50% shot at a touchdown, right? His prop line is probably going to be something like -130, -140 or something. Like, why the hell not? I could I could play Denzel Mims. I could stack the other side of the game. Who says I can't do that? If the Chargers, right, you say they're going to get to a lead, 2-touchdown lead, and then lose the game. So what you do is you play Balaj, and then you stack Flacco with Mims and Crowder. And or Perriman even, right?
Perriman was slinging the ball to Perriman against the Patriots, just absolutely slinging it all over the field, and Crowder was just kind of nowhere to be seen.
Right, but I mean, Mims is 3,300. He got 8 targets the last game. So like I know Perriman's 4,300. He got 7 targets the last game. Like, for 1,000 less, for 25% less in salary, I think Denzel Mims is going to be popular. I think he's going to be a cash game, punt type of wide receiver. You'll see that all the projections. I mean, you may see Allen also. This game, you may see a lot of this game in cash games. And we're talking about the Chargers and the Jets, people. This game could end 9-7, right? I mean, like it legitimately could end because the Chargers are a bit overrated. The Jets are the Jets, for crying out loud. So do I expect a shootout here? No, but I mean, for the prices here, Keenan Allen's target share, the cheap Jets, Balaj even, like, yes, I think I'm going to have a bunch of this game. And then, when 405 comes, the late set comes around, going, hopefully this game isn't a dud.
I mean, I don't know. Like, the main thing is you look at what the Chargers has done with Herbert taking over. Like, I don't think that he's put up less than 21 points in any given matchup. He's going up against the worst pass defense in the league. Like,
do they have to pass? That's the question.
I mean,
maybe the haircut. Maybe they don't trust his haircut, and they're like, no, you're just going to hand off the ball.
I mean, I don't think they would. I mean, for one,
or maybe Grant. Maybe you think because of his haircut, he's much more aerodynamic, so they'll kind of like float him outside of the pocket. A lot of bootlegs.
Yeah, well, then that's great for him then too. He could end up with a decent rushing game. I mean, he's had 60 yards before this season, but he's been fantastic. I'm probably mostly stacking or just going with Keenan Allen or Balaj. But like, I could see this game turning into a shootout. I don't think people are going to play Jets. Like, I get they pop in projection systems, but I don't see people playing Jets. And
no, Mims will be popular. I'm telling you right now.
Mims will be popular, but I'm talking about actually a significant amount of price. Like, Mims will just be popular because you either have him or Grant that you're going to use as your punt wide receiver.
Right. Yeah, I don't think Crowder's going to get much ownership. Yeah, I agree with you on the other players. But I mean, Mims at 3,300. If he has a target share over 20% at 3,300, I mean, like, his play. I mean, you can get 10 points from him. Like, give him.
And talk about recency bias. Like Crowder had averaged 20 points a game almost for the entire season outside of the last game against the Patriots. He still ended up with a touchdown. But Crowder can absolutely put up a big game. Flacco looked decent for once. And the Chargers defense, really not great. And are they going to give it to Gore or are they going to give it to Pirine? Like, probably not a bunch. And so it's going to come in the passing game. They're likely going to be behind, although it's the Chargers. You never actually know. So I think that this is – I'm more on the Jets than I think you are. But I think this game –
I'm more on the Jets. I was saying I'm stacking Flacco. So what are you talking about?
Okay. Well, we're both on the Jets then.
Right. I'm more likely to stack the Jets and then play Balaj or Allen on the other side than play the Herbert side and play the single Jet as my ring back.
Yeah, that's fair. That is absolutely fair. But yeah, Jets +7. Lock it in, guys. Or +7.5. Or 8.5, actually. Yeah.
Whatever.
Jets.
Lock it in no matter what. +8 million. Well, obviously you'd play it then.
Yeah. Next up, we got the Packers going up against the Colts. Is this the highest total on the slate of 51?
Yep.
Yeah, well, let's start off with the Colts here. Hines, well, everyone was just so excited about Jonathan Taylor early on in the season. Dude hasn't looked great. And Hines, just perfect running back for Rivers. 26 points last week, 20 points 2 weeks ago. I don't know whoever to pair with Rivers. I don't think that I'll play Rivers because I'm just kind of done playing Rivers. But, like, Hines, do you think he's going to draw a decent amount of ownership after his week last week?
I mean, he'll draw some, but, I mean, they play hot hand with these running backs. So they play hot hand with all the the Colts are, Jesus, what are you supposed to do? Pittman, Hilton, Pascal, Burton, Mo Ali. They have 3 tight ends. They have 6 wide receivers. They have 3 running backs. Like, I know this is the highest total, but, I mean, and they're playing in the Dome, right? But, like, the only pieces of this game that I see that are playable, unless you're just taking a wild shot, is basically Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones. So, like it's how do you stack Rivers? And obviously you could stack Rodgers. You go Rodgers, Adams, and you're done.
Yeah.
And then you play some. Then you rotate wide receivers and players from the Colts, and hopefully that gets there.
Yeah.
I think this will end up being a lower owned game, even though it's the highest total on the slate.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anyone that I even remotely trust. And I can't think of anyone else. Like it's pretty much just Hines, but yeah, it could be Jonathan Taylor. It could be Wilkins getting a lot of work. Like this is just not a great game. I think I use Hines if I'm stacking Rodgers and Adams, and that's pretty much it. Like I'll use some Jones, but if I'm stacking up this game, it's probably Rodgers, Adams, Hines is the only stack that I'll do.
Seems fine to me.
All right, let's get to my favorite game of the slate, and lots of people's favorite game, I'm sure, for different reasons than me. We got Minnesota going up against Dallas. We got a 48.5 total here. Minnesota 7-point favorite. Dallas obviously looked terrible for many, many weeks ever since Dak went down. Looked terrible before that, but in an entirely different way. Let's start off here. Cook, probably going to be the chalkiest running back on the slate. 9K, been crushing, getting a huge workload, going up against Dallas. Dallas is one of the worst rush defenses in the league. Been getting obliterated lately on the ground. Are you playing Cook? Are you playing Jefferson? Are you playing Thielen?
I think this is going to be the most popular game on the entire slate, especially on the Vikings side. It's a very condensed offense. So if you're not playing Cook, you're playing Jefferson at 6,000. You're playing Thielen at 6,300. Right? I mean, it just – who else would you play from this team? I mean, you could stack with Cousins.
Irv Smith.
You could play Cook as a one-off. You could run it back with all these with all these Cowboys. So, like, it makes perfect sense against the – they have the 27.75 implied total against a horrible Cowboys defense. The question really comes in is, like, who do you play on the Cowboys side? And if Dalton's back, like, I don't mind the Cowboys offense. In fact, like, I think you could take shots on playing Zeke Elliott at 6,500 and playing the opposite side, playing Cousins plus Jefferson plus Zeke. And if you don't do that, you could play – if you're going to play Cook, play Dalton. Play Dalton plus Cooper plus Schultz. to fill that tight end spot. Maybe you don't double stack. I mean, Gallup's down to 3,700. Lamb's down to 5,000. I mean, we know that the Vikings secondary is not great, right? They're not as bad as they was in the beginning of the season, but they're not great. I think people are going to stay away from the Cowboys because of, the past since Dak. They've been pretty bad. I still think Cooper will get some ownership. I still think we may see like 10% or so ownership on Cooper, but I don't think people are going to play Dalton. And I know that you played Gilbert. If you're willing to play Gilbert, you have to be willing to play Dalton.
Oh, I love Dalton this week. Like, let's look at everything in kind of a shell, or on a case by case basis. Arizona, one of the better defenses in the ninth in DVOA, going up against Dalton, where Dalton was trailing immediately because Zeke fumbled the ball, they scored. Zeke next play fumbled the ball, they scored. So Dalton was just in a terrible spot there. First week, him actually playing as the starter. He did decent when Dak ended up getting injured. I think it was 9 for 11. Like, he didn't play bad when Dak went down in that first game. The next game, terrible against Arizona. Next game, did terrible versus Washington, who's still one of the better defenses in the league, one of the top pass defenses in the league. Cooper in the 2 games with Dalton, 20 points and 15 points. We could easily see that again. He's clearly Dalton's favorite target from the small sample size that we saw of him. And he was getting 10 targets a game early on in the season. I don't know what their overall pace is going to be. They slowed down drastically after Dak went out, and they're probably going to end up running the ball more. By the way, Zeke ended up with 12 targets, I think, that game that Dalton played against Arizona. But Zeke might not be playing this weekend. We could potentially see Pollard in for a huge workload at 5.6K, which I don't think people will immediately flock towards like they should. I love Gallup just because of his price tag. I really like Cooper just overall. He's one of my favorite plays on the entire slate. I'm going to be stacking up Cook with Dalton, Cooper, and Gallup all over the place. Like, it's a cheap enough stack. Like, Dalton is sitting there at 5.3K. Cooper's at 5.4K. And Gallup is 3.7K. You're getting some of the best offensive weapons in the receiving core out of any team. And if you forget the 2 games that Dalton played, which he didn't even finish the second one, like, Dalton was still a very serviceable quarterback over in Cincinnati. We could absolutely see him put up. He had a 34-point game at the end of last season in Cincinnati going up against Miami. He can put up a big outing. They can pass the ball 50 times, especially if they're coming from behind. I'm going to lose a lot of money on Dallas.
Well, I'm going to be with you. I think playing Dallas stacks is a great way to mitigate Dalvin Cook ownership. Because we may see Dalvin Cook at 38% owned. I mean, he may be one of the highest owned players on the slate. And a lot of people will not play Cowboys with him. So if Dalvin Cook has a big game and the Cowboys and they keep it close and this game goes over in the Dome in Minnesota, like, how does Cooper not get there? How did these receivers at 5K not get there? How does Dalton not have a 300-yard passing game? I mean, like, it's more like if Dalvin Cook breaks off an 80-yard run, I mean, it just gives the ball right back to the Cowboys again. And I think it's a good way. It doesn't mean you're going all in or anything, but I think in your Dalvin Cook lineups, even if you're not stacking the game, play any of the wide receivers. Do Cook and Cooper as a secondary. Cook and Gallup. Cook and Lamb. I probably wouldn't do Cook and Elliott together, opposing running backs. But, like, obviously the leverage plays were Jefferson and Thielen, but I think they're going to be owned also. So I don't think you're going to gain all that much leverage in doing it that way. But I think Cooper will be double-digit owned, and every other – I don't think people are going to play Zeke at 6,500. And, like, Zeke used to be a 9K running back. So, like maybe it happens. You never know.
Yeah, well, plus he can get heavily involved in the receiving game with Dalton there. All right, let's play some weird version of the morning grind game. I don't remember the exact rules.
You still don't remember the questions?
I do. I don't know. There's always one I forget. So we're just gonna go favorite lower owned quarterback.
A favorite love. We don't even have ownership. So how the hell am I supposed to
make a guess?
Make a guess. Lower owned quarterback. I can't take Dalton because you're gonna take Dalton. So
I'll let you take Dalton if you want.
No, I don't want. No, now I don't want to take Dalton. Now it feels like you're pawning him off on me. So Screw it. Joe Burrow.
I like it. I'll go Dalton in. That was some great psychology there on my part. Running back, lower owned running back that you like.
Based on no ownership, but I guess Kamara. I think Kamara is going to come in under owned because if people play Cook, they're not going to be able to jam in Kamara.
I have to assume that's true. I'm going to go with McKissick. I don't think he's going to be heavily owned. Lower owned wide receiver that could go off.
He always comes in lower owned, so
You're going to say McLaurin.
Yeah, I have to say, like every week I could say McLaurin.
Yeah, well, it's just true. I'm going to go with. Is Keenan Allen going to be heavily owned? I don't know if he will.
Yeah, no. Against the Jets, he's gonna easily be like 20% owned. Yeah,
I'm going to say Amari Cooper. If he's going to be heavily owned, then I'll say Gallup. Tight end, I don't even care. Give me a
tight end. I mean, what is this? Just touchdown hunting? Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. It's trash. Let's just go one last one. Defense to get a touchdown.
Oh, really? That's almost worse than the tight end.
Yeah.
Right?
No. How about low price, cheap defense?
Okay. That's a better way of putting it. Favorite cheap defense. So basically under 3,000, right?
Yeah.
Okay, under 3,000 because the Dolphins are priced up because I like Dolphins against Lock. Let's see, cheap defense. I'm gonna say against. Let's see who would. I mean, come on. You know what the obvious option is. Everyone knows what the obvious option is. The obvious option with Winston as the starter is to just play the Falcons defense. But no,
that's what I was gonna say.
So. Right, I know you're gonna say that. So like, I'm gonna play the opposite game, and I'm going to go with I'll play the Lions against PJ Walker.
I'm gonna go super off the board. I'm gonna say the Jets. It's the Chargers. They're gonna come in.
Okay, so the Jets win by defensive touchdowns.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that happening. It's the Chargers. They're gonna do what they do. Herbert's looked fantastic, but they're gonna do something to screw things up. I'll say the Jets defense at 2K, just saving you some money. All right, Blender, it's been fun. Stevie will be back next week, guys. Good luck on our contest this weekend. I'm out of here. See you, kids.